Turning to constituency issues, I mean, a lot of the childcare providers in advance of the general election and certainly in advance of the shutdown were already talking about the huge difficulties in staying open because of insurance costs and also the administrative burden which was being shifted onto them by, primarily by the department and their policies. Can I ask two questions in relation to that? I mean, there's been a lot of the insurance companies reimbursed or pretended to reimburse private car owners in a kind of a deal that they hatched with the minister, or appeared to hatch with the minister, but didn't, like, they're reneging on their claims with regard to pubs. But obviously all of your premises were shut for a number of months. So did you get reimbursed insurance costs such that insurance is no longer a worry for you this year? And the second question is, do you have an additional administrative burden now in terms of reporting around safety and precautions taken and COVID-19?
Your question, Deputy, I'll take that as a provider. First of all, to go to your insurance situation, yes, my own insurer has extended my insurance periods for a further 3 months into next year. So yes, I have been offered that opportunity. In regarding the whole administrative burden, I used to work in the classroom, which was my joy, which was my favourite part of the day was my 3 hours I spent in the room with my 3 to 5 year olds. Unfortunately, as the workload has increased to a point that I found myself working from 9 till midnight at home after I put my own child to bed on administration, I've had to take the decision to step back and become a full-time administrator in my own service, and that is due to the increased burden of paperwork that pre-existed COVID. In light of COVID, yes, of course, we are going to have to put in the checks and balances that will attest to the fact that we are doing the risk assessment, the cleaning, the hygiene, the tracing of pods, etc., etc. So yes, to answer your question, we will have an additional workload.
And have you been offered any additional support to pay for that additional administration workload? I mean, your story of staying up all night filling in paperwork is very typical of childcare operators that I met right across Clare in the months of January and February of this year. But the specific question, will you get additional supports or payments because of the additional administration that you have to undergo?
Well, I mean, we are in receipt, and much fought for was our programme support payments, but it does cover a massive workload. It covers your non-contact time, it covers administration burden, it covers meeting time with parents. So is it adequate? Probably no.
But is it being increased?
In recent times, we are getting the reopening grant, and we'll have to look at how we can maybe use some of that to resource the administrative burden.
But the reopening grant applies to all businesses right across the state who don't have any additional administrative burden.
If I can and that no, the reopening grant doesn't. It's specific to early years. The temporary wage subsidy scheme applies to absolutely everybody, and we're waiting the full details in relation to what exactly the reopening grant can be spent on. But our information to date has been that if there is increased administration or cleaning specific to COVID, then that you can use that money, but only if it's specific to COVID related, expenses in terms of personnel. And I suppose we'd be kind of looking at that's going to be challenging for providers. Because where the temporary wage subsidy scheme doesn't cover the wage of the employee, the employer is going to be stuck in relation to where they're going to have the funding to that, because they can't rise parent fees, and nor would they want to. So it's going to need to come out of the very little income that they're going to have, given that they're at reduced capacity.
And sorry, just to go back to the insurance issue, do you know, are all insurers giving an insurance extension and the period of insurance to cover the period that crèches and childcare facilities were closed?
Question, Deputy. The answer to that is I would be responsible for 11 community childcare services, and the answer to that is no, we haven't been offered anything whatsoever.
You haven't been. So some insurers are being what one might call decent about it, others are being typically indecent.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Pointing, but maybe not surprising.